Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. And this evening, I'll bring you the newscast. And it is very, very disturbing. And I'm going to tell you why it's disturbing because it involves Google Maps. So, the title of tonight's video is going to be Don't Always Trust Google Maps. Don't always trust Google Maps. Now, in this day and age, most of us are relying on applications like Google Maps to get us where we want to go. Now, me, I still believe in looking at a good old map because I understand, number one, all of the applications on that map from the legend. Now, this is not about reading a map. This is about a family suing Google Maps because the individual put all the information in either a GPS or he probably printed the directions out on a computer and it led him to a collapsed bridge where the person perished. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read the information myself here. Just bear with me. Go back to sharing again. Here we go. So it starts off, Google sued after North Carolina man drove off collapsed bridge while following map directions. Fair use, fair use. Let's get into a video on what really happened. Fair use. Just bear with me here while I get it going. Fair use. And excuse the commercial, but just look at the information. And this report will tell you what happened. Fair use. Let's go.
Well, right now at 5, a family is suing Google and neighborhood developers nearly a year after a man's Jeep plunged into a hole where a bridge had previously collapsed in Hickory. Attorneys for the man's family say it's, quote, inexcusable that Google did not make corrections to Google Maps. Queen City News anchor Robin Kennedy tells us the man's widow hopes to prevent another tragedy.
I still don't have the answer to tell my daughters. I don't have the answers to the question of why is daddy gone and why isn't he coming back?
It happened on a dark, rainy night last September. Attorneys say before Phil Paxson left his daughter's birthday party at a friend's house in Hickory, he went to Google Maps for directions home. The lawyers say the path laid out by the GPS app sent him on a plunge to his death.
To us, it's clear Google unmistakably knew the condition of this road, should not have been sending people over it.
The road Paxson was directed to had a bridge that had collapsed 9 years before. Attorneys say his Jeep flipped into the 20-foot canyon and filled with water.
Now, let me stop there. Now, I'm a civil engineer myself, but I do read a lot of maps. Now, I'm going to say my condolences to the person that perished. But is it really all of Google Maps' fault? Well, time will only tell, because what Google should have done, and this is just my opinion, when it comes to all of these platforms, And Rand McNally is very good for it. That's one of the first maps that I've always bought. They update their maps every year. Now you have to ask the question: is this collapsed bridge on a state road? And if it was on a state road, why wasn't the North Carolina State Department of Transportation notified? Also, if it was a municipality, why wasn't it posted on Facebook? Generally, when it comes to any type of incident regarding a bridge or a road, there are always reports, and many of us know about it. There's 511, there's cars. Now, again, I've always said, don't always rely on MapQuest or Google Maps. And when you're traveling, find alternative routes. One must understand that a number of these maps that are made, like Google, they're not always updated on time. They are updated. But now this incident took place because a Google map wasn't updated. Let's continue. Fair use. And again, this is something that's very hard to swallow. Because on one point, I always believe that when you travel, you find alternate routes. But I understand that there's some people out there who don't know how to read a map. Now, I'm just going to say this to all you folks out there who are deficient in directions. The best thing for you to do, if you're going to go somewhere, is you need to look at the main route. You need to see if the main route is a state road or a municipal road. See if your municipality has social media. See if there's a 511. That will tell you if there's construction on the road. And then I have to ask this other question. Why was this bridge collapsed? And how long has it been collapsed? Did the state, did the municipality have any money to fix it? And was this bridge a priority or non-priority? Fair use, let's continue.
Drowning him in a creek.
I just struggle every day to understand how something so unimaginable and horrific could be allowed to happen.
Paxton's widow is suing Google and the developers of a nearby neighborhood. Her lawsuit claims the big tech company failed to update maps after a user pointed out problems multiple times years before. Lawyers also say the original developers of the nearby housing tract never turned over the road to the North Carolina DOT. They're also accused of failing to set up proper maintenance agreements for the road and never replacing the bridge on 24th Street Place.
There is absolutely no good reason that this cliff and this canyon were allowed to exist for 9 years and 10 years to this day.
We checked out Google's current street view of the road, and it still shows images from 2012 of the bridge still intact before its collapse. But Google Maps with GPS now does seem to route around the closed road.
Now, there's something you also need to know. Besides Google Maps, there's also Google Earth out there. Now, okay, like I said, as a civil engineer myself, they're looking at the name of this street. First of all, streets are not state roads. streets are part of the city, like 24th place, 25th place. Most of your state routes are identified by a number. Now, when it comes to maps, I'm going to say this. It is the mapping company's responsibility to update all their maps. I mean, this map from the newscast, which I don't have all of the facts, but I'm going by what the newscast is simply telling me. They have a bridge that has been out of commission for 9 years. However, it doesn't indicate it on a map. It indicates that the bridge is still intact. So the gentleman who traveled on the bridge thought that the bridge was intact. Now, generally, I'm going to say this. If a bridge is out, there are signs up there with barricades that say bridge out. If a road has been washed out or if road is closed, there's signs. So looking at everything from view of evidence, there were no warning signs that told any driver about the bridge. But now another question has to be asked. If this bridge has been collapsed for 9 years, did it take any other lives? Because generally, when it comes to any type of incident from roads, there's data collected by the State Department of Transportation. And if there's enough data where fatalities are involved, the DOT gets involved and they get some designers to actually look at the project to see what they can do to fix the issue. Apparently, that didn't happen. So if you think about it, it's not only Google who didn't update their maps. The city should have also been sued because there were no signs up there. And I'm going based off the newscast that the bridge was out or there was a problem with the road. But I've always said, don't always trust Google, because I know I was going to a union meeting in Pennsylvania, and one of my union members, he loved using Google. Google did take us to a road that they were working on. So me, when I drive, I generally find a number of extra routes because you don't know what roads are closed unless they're put in a system. Now, generally, when it comes to any type of municipal work or DOT work, you can get on the site and they can tell you what roads are closed. Did this person do that? Because if he had done it, he may have been here with us today. But again, let's go with the newscast. Newscast, the widow and the lawyers believe that it's Google's fault because Google hadn't updated their maps. And it seemed like the maps were outdated by a decade. Fair use. Let's continue.
Google tells Queen City News, quote, "We have the deepest sympathies for the Paxson family. Our goal is to provide accurate rounding information in maps, and we are reviewing this lawsuit."
Just breaks my heart for my girls. I mean, the loss is immeasurable.
Alicia Paxson says she does her best to honor her husband and talk about him with her children.
When I think about what a great father he was and how important it was to him being a father.
Robin Kennedy, Queen City News.
Let's bring in Queen City News Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes to dive deeper into this case. Khalif, it's so tragic. I've spoken to Alicia. I was out there shortly after it happened, and what this family is going through, it's just horrible. But speaking legally from your experience, can Google and Google Maps be held responsible for this?
I mean, this case is definitely horrific. I mean, it's terrible. This is something that you for sure would not want to occur on any type of incident. And so it's like any other personal injury matter where a person dies. It's a wrongful death claim. And so you're talking about a wrongful act or negligence. Looking at negligence, just quickly breaking it down, damages, death, and so that's the worst type of damages that you can have. Was there a duty, and did they breach that duty? Those are the first two questions. And then, was it the proximate cause? But for their action of not doing what they were supposed to do, did this person die? I think in this claim, the hardest portion to connect Google to any type of liability would be the duty. Did they actually have a duty to provide him with a road that was, or directions that gave him a safe path? And that's
Now, let me stop you there. Right now, we have a lawyer up there. Now, the lawyer is talking about duty and negligence. Well, with the lack of information that I have, it's going to sound like I'm all over the place. But now, if I need to put some common sense into the mix, besides blaming Google, what about blaming the municipalities? The municipality or the state should have known that this area was deemed unsafe. Why didn't the state, DOT, or the city, they have maintenance offices, put up some barricades to alert drivers that the bridge is out, the bridge collapsed, the road is closed? See, that's another question that nobody is asking. Now, this lawyer is going to talk about negligence, but from a construction standpoint, or from a standpoint, if there were any flooding, what happens? They usually close off the road. They have signs that say high water. Well, the question is, what were the signs that said bridge out? What were the signs that said detour? Now, apparently, this bridge had been collapsed for 9 years. So does it really become a Google problem, or does it become a state government or a city government problem? That's the question that needs to be asked. Fair use. Let's hear what this lawyer has to say.
That's something I think that's a unique issue. That's a unique question. That's something that I don't think has ever been asked before by the courts. Not only do I have a duty to provide you directions to point A to point B, but did I have a duty to provide you directions that were safe? That's the ultimate question. Do I believe that there's liability and accountability for the owners of that private road? For sure. I think they had a duty to put up some barriers, to put up notices, and it doesn't seem like they were there. I mean, the troopers at the time said that the barriers were removed. So I think accountability for those folks is there. I think it's going to be extremely hard for the family to point and to present liability to Google. Now, this claim, I think, in the long run would probably end up settling anyway. Nobody wants to be connected to this type of claim, but you for sure would want to see how you can connect them to a duty, and I think it would be hard for them to do.
So you think that would be kind of the pitfall, is how do you link this directly back to it is Google's fault?
With most claims, the hardest portion is that proximate cause, but for your actions, you caused me an injury. Second hardest thing is, did you even have a duty? Did you have a responsibility to do something, and have you?
Let me stop it again. Okay, Google has maps for roads all over the world. But is it really Google's responsibility? Now, again, I believe that all maps should be updated. I mean, Rand McNally before the year is out. Rand McNally, here we're in 2023. They already have the new 2024 road atlas out. Now, when it comes to maps, I believe that maps should be updated. However, do maps tell you, let's say like a Google, tell you where there's construction? Now, I know maps will tell you where there's a proposed route or if there's a route under construction, but if there's an existing bridge or existing road and it has been washed out or a bridge collapsed, does it really tell you that? I've never seen any map that actually said that. Now, going back to where the lawyer has put his information, he actually agrees with me. The negligence should be stuck on the city and should be stuck on the state. But I have to say, because it was a street that the state didn't own, it has to be stuck on the city or that municipality. Now, apparently, the newscast claims that the state trooper said barriers were removed. Well, why would barriers be removed? See, that's something that we need to ask, because you have a bridge that's basically been out for 9 years. Well, who would move the barriers? Why would somebody move the barricades? That area should have been permanently shut off for that reason, that the bridge had collapsed and nobody has repaired it. Let's see what this lawyer has to say. Let's continue their use.
Breach that duty. If I can't even say that you had a duty, there's no claim. And so I think this will survive any type of pretrial motions. But I think if you get this question in front of a jury, they'll have to determine, did you have a duty? And right now, I think it's really hard to say I have a duty to provide you safe directions.
Not to mention, they'll also be looking at who actually owned the road and should have been responsible for those repairs. Khalif, thank you so much for your time.
Ascension St. Vincent is the leader in Indiana.
Now, again, the lawyer actually agrees with me. The person, or I'm not even going to say the person, the municipality who own the road should be the one responsible for the death of this person. Because I'm sure they had some knowledge of this bridge. It's 9 years. And again, did the city want to spend the money to fix this bridge? Because now you have a death, now you have a family that's suing somebody, wants to sue Google. Now, apparently, and after going over all of this information, I'm going to say she might be suing the wrong person. You need to go after the city. I know Google's got deep pockets, but it's going to be very, very, very difficult to find negligence with Google. Now, again, Hickory, North Carolina. Attorneys for a man killed in North Carolina when his Jeep plunged into a hole where a bridge had collapsed years earlier. Again, they're now suing Google and the neighborhood developers for his death. Now, the attorneys say Google was warned multiple times that the bridge did not exist and the company failed to update its GPS mapping system. Now, what attorneys? Was it her attorneys? Now, if the attorneys are going to be involved, what about getting involved with the city or the municipality who own the road? Now, again, the gentleman who was driving home from his daughter's birthday party, it was a rainy night. His name was Phil Jackson. And basically, the map that he was using said the bridge was there, but it wasn't there. And what happened is Jeep flipped over and he drowned because his Jeep was filled with water. So basically, before leaving a birthday party, attorneys say Phil went into Google Maps, which routed him to the bridge that collapsed 9 years prior and didn't exist. Oh no, the bridge does exist. It was collapsed. But again, does Google have any responsibility for that bridge? Now, yes, they should update their maps. Everything should be updated to make everything current. But again, some people don't even read the map. Some people don't even know how to read a map. Now, I'm just going to say this. Attorneys say not only did Google not update its maps when a user pointed out the problem years before, but the original developers of the nearby housing development never turned over the road to the North Carolina DOT, never set up appropriate maintenance agreements for the road, and never replaced the bridge. Now, again, it might not have been a state road. It might have been a city road. Also, that project, because road projects require money, and projects that are priority, they're going to come first. Was this project a priority? And if it wasn't a priority, one thing that could have happened was to block off the area with road closure signs and barriers. Now, again, going back to what a state trooper said, that happened. However, the state trooper said the barricades were removed. But who removed them and why would they remove them? If there was a collapsed bridge and somebody could run into it and lose their life, and what happened? Somebody did lose their life. Again, there is absolutely no good reason that this cliff and this canyon were allowed to exist for 9 years. Again, why was this bridge not fixed for 9 years? See, those are some questions, but I believe that the attorneys are going to the wrong person. Now, yes, or the wrong entity. They need to go to the state government or the city government because they're responsible for fixing the bridge. Did they even discuss fixing the bridge? From all the information that I'm gathering, 9 years, nobody said anything. But I want to put this out there. Learn how to read a map. Don't always trust GPS because there has been some incidents where GPS has led individuals in the wrong direction. Now, attorneys say to this day the bridge has not been replaced. So concerned neighbors took it upon themselves to put barriers up to try to prevent another tragedy. Now, you think about that. The town, they actually became proactive when the people that we pay taxes to, that's their job. They didn't act. Now, again, I just want to tell you how the system works when it comes to roads. What happens is the FHWA, which is the Federal Highway Administration, it allocates the state's money. This is why in every state, there's a FHWA, Federal Highway Administration Field Office. And what they do is they come out and audit all the projects that the FHWA allocates funds for to make sure that the funds that the state DOTs are getting are being spent on said projects. Also, when we get into local projects, there could be 80-20. What do I mean by 80-20? Could be 80% state, 20% municipality. Well, again, just want to caution you when it comes to all these maps here. Make sure your maps are updated. Maps should be updated every year. There are going to be some roads that existed. There are going to be some roads that are new. One thing you need to understand when you read any map, whether it's Google, whether it's MapQuest, you need to understand the legend. Also, you need to understand that GPS isn't always accurate. Too many of us rely on that technology. And what happens? Technology could lead you down the wrong road. This is what happened to that gentleman. Now, again, my condolences to the family. I'm just going to say this. It's going to be hard to prove that Google was negligent. Yes, Google should update their maps. But when you think of this whole situation, you're going to have to put the blame on the entity who owns the road. It's either the city or the state. Now, if it's the city, they're responsible for it, because generally the states turn some of the minor arterial routes over to the city because it might cost the city less to maintain a road. And plus, that road might not be a priority to the state because the state has a lot of other roads like interstates and US highways and state routes to fix and maintain every year. So regular streets, they give them to the city because they have the funds to fix them, and the streets are a priority to the city. But I'm just looking at the situation. Google should try to Google should update their maps every year. But it's going to be hard to convince a jury that Google is liable for their map where the bridge existed. Because I have to go back. Let's say if Google, because I don't know if Google didn't upgrade their maps either. So you can't always believe a newscast because, see, here's how propaganda is formed. If an individual is constantly lying to you and you constantly believe the lie and you think the lie is true, that's propaganda. Well, in this day and age, a lot of media throws propaganda out there because they have agendas. This is why you have to do your own research. And when it comes to getting in your car and you're going somewhere, you have to do your own research as well. You have to know what roads are open and what roads are closed. And if you see something that is unusual, such as a road that has a collapsed bridge or a road that is washed away during flooding and there's no barricades, you have two things. Number one, don't take that road. And number two, call your city streets department or street department or contact your state DOT, because we as taxpayers pay those entities to take care of our roads. And it's up to us to get that service. I mean, there is some we the people out there. But unfortunately, when it comes to we the people, we have our mind focused on issues that come from emotion. But this was a safety issue because I hate to see any fatalities, but it could have been worse. Now, what if there were more fatalities on this road? Sometimes everything doesn't get reported. But in closing, I just want to say this. When it comes to traveling, and if you're using a GPS or a map, make sure that it's updated. Also, make sure you know alternative routes as well. Being a good driver doesn't always mean following the rules. That's part of it. Knowing where you're going, knowing your surroundings. And if you're on a Google map, it's up to you to make sure that that map is updated. If it's not, you can contact Google. And if they don't pick up, there's another source like Yahoo Maps, Rand McNally, MapQuest. But before you can do all that, make sure you know how to read a map. And make sure that you understand that the map isn't going to have every item, such as a road closure, included on that map. Usually, if you want to find out information about roads being closed, that's what you turn on your local news. That's what you contact your streets department or your state department of transportation. Generally, the state department of transportation has, depends on what state you live in. I live here in Indiana. We have what we call a 511 and a car system. It tells us every road in this state where it's closed, where there's an accident, and if they're doing bridge work, it tells us as well. Why? Because that information that we give to the state DOT is reported and then put out by TMC, which is the Traffic Management Center. So again, it's going to be very hard to prove that Google is negligent. And shout out to my sweet chocolate for providing me with this story. Because I'm just going to say this. Don't always trust Google Maps or GPS. Because if you do, you're letting that service do the work for you. And understand, technology is made by man. And everything man does is not perfect. And you must understand that there's going to be some failure with each and every application, whether it's a map, whether it's something in the car, or whether it's the chair you sit on. Expect some failure. Nothing is perfect but God. So if you're going to rely on your GPS or a map for your own safety, make sure that your GPS devices and your maps are always updated. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, please check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, I'll give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm going to start doing more work on that channel. And I'm going to use this channel primarily as a news source channel. I know there have been some individuals who have asked me to do panels. I may, but one of the reasons why I don't do panels is because when it comes to doing real content, many people want entertainment. I'm not here to provide entertainment. I'm here to provide information about what's going on in the real world. So I will say, if the information that you're getting from my channel isn't your cup of tea, this is not the channel for you, because I'm not here to beef. I'm not here to provide you with entertainment. I'm here to give you an education on what's going on in the real world. This is why I call my channel the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. And again, if you can't find the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can find both of those channels out up on my Twitter channel. Now for the QCIS channel, I do take it one step further since it is an education channel. You can also find that channel on my LinkedIn page. And in the end, always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, just change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.